Absolute bedlam. Absolute bedlam. Absolute bedlam. Talking about topics and stuff. Absolute bedlam. Absolute bedlam. Absolute bedlam podcast. Who? What? Where? Why?
Hi, I'm Larry from Shields, and you are listening to Absolute Bedlam Podcast.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Absolute Bedlam Podcast. I've just looked at the YouTube analytics before recording and we are now broadcasting in 50 countries across the globe. So if you are from Vietnam, drop us a like, drop us a subscribe. Anyway, I'm now speaking to someone that's not from Vietnam. We've got Mr. Larry Welling, the return. So a while back, we did an audio episode on our phones probably. And I wanted to get Larry back on because quite a lot's happened since we spoke last. So how on earth are you, Mr. Welling?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you, mate. Yeah, good. Very busy, but very good. Yeah.
Always something going on in the world of Larry.
Well, I don't view myself as particularly busier than anyone else, but I am certainly busy enough for myself, that's for sure.
Keep yourself busy, absolutely.
Yeah.
So first question is usually a school-related question, but we have actually circumvented this one and vetoed it in favor of your Instagram story the other day, which is if you could be a type of soup, what soup would you be and why?
I didn't know that would come back to bite me, that story.
Absolutely.
Do you know what? I always say, because I had a lot of responses to that, a lot of messages. People seem to like questions like that.
Yeah.
I'm a good pea and ham super, me.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's just slightly tasty. It's kind of good for you. But a lot of people, interestingly, or maybe not interestingly, downplay themselves. They go for something super boring. And I'm like, nah, you're spicier than that. A bit more chili involved.
Mulligatawny is probably mine because I got a bit of everything going on, a bit of pasta.
Yeah.
Just anything goes with mulligatawny.
That's a good one. I like that.
I love that word as well. It's just a weird word.
It's a satisfying word.
There we go. So since we spoke last, we kind of, in a weird way, you've kind of landed in the same position musician-wise and music-wise as when you were speaking to me last. Because you were talking about Shields ending and you were in a band called Brotherhood, which you were the vocalist of. And now everything's kind of flipped and gone back to Shields. So the question on that really is more of a sort of deep one, but do you believe in fate? Because I've only met you a couple of times in person, but you've always looked to me as an individual, you've always looked at your happiest when you were in Shields.
Right.
So was this meant to happen, or is it all just a happy accident?
I'm not sure if I'd call it fate. I believe everyone has a plan laid out for them, but which is kind of the same thing, I guess. But to be honest, it's a really weird one because it's I certainly am happiest when I'm with those guys. We've got a bond that I've had unlike any other for sure, and that's really nice. It's really pleasant. Especially this time around. So it's been really, really cool. Don't get me wrong, I love all the guys I've been in bands with over the years, but this is the one for me that is certainly the most significant, the most important, and something I'd give the most I'm the most grateful for, I would say, certainly.
Yeah. I think I'm right in thinking when you did It's Killing Me, and I think you split up as Shields. I think it was actually on April Fool's Day, and I wasn't sure if it was one of those like classic, like, oh my god, of course they've split up, like
I
every
didn't know
band
that
during
actually.
April Fool's Day. And you all kind of went your own separate ways. Like Sam did Kubrick. I'd still love to
Yeah.
get you on Sam, by the way, but I appreciate that you don't always check social media. Joe did Honey Flux. Was it Alex was the original drummer of Shields? Is that right?
He wasn't the original drummer, but he's more he's certainly like he's been in it the longest, I think,
Yeah,
on drums. I think he's like the second drummer, so
yeah.
he's been in for pretty much the most all the time. Yeah,
What
yeah.
did he do when Shields ended? Did he have a project of his own?
So Alex did some session work for a few bands and things like that, which was cool. But to be honest, I mean, he'll be pissed off with me if I get this wrong, probably. But he kind of just did family life. He got married.
Fair enough.
Like we all attended the wedding, like maybe a few months after we had come back from the final tour, I think, something like that. And he's got kids and stuff, and he's got a lovely wife and everything. So I think he just got stuck into that for a bit, to be honest. He's quite an internal person. I hope he doesn't mind me saying that. He lives everything internally, and I think he probably needed some time away from things and just to live his own life and
Yeah,
be a good dad, which he
yeah,
definitely is.
yeah. I can attest to that because I kind of put my bass down when Casper was born, my son. He's
Yeah,
now
yeah.
10, and I occasionally have a
Wow,
bit of a play, occasionally play a 21 Pilots song front to back. But apart from
lovely.
that, I don't really feel the draw like I used to. But yeah. So how does it feel like actually having Shields back together? Because it was what, 6 years?
Um, I'm not sure exactly how long, but it was 5 or 6. We've been saying 5 online, so I guess it's
Yeah.
somewhere in between. But like, it's really really cool because for many reasons. But the weird thing is that it wasn't meant to be like full time coming back. It was only meant to be one show, and that was at Burn It Down,
Yeah.
and we credit with a lot because we'd had no like we'd all hung out many times and met up separately or like played the same show even at some point or another with our separate projects, but it never just came up, and I don't even know why it just never came up. I think I'd sort of like given up banging on that drum a little bit.
Yeah.
Everyone was so deep into what they were doing, and yeah, it is so weird because as soon as that picture of us all together at Burn It Down came up, people were saying it before we were even, and it just kind of flowed. And we all realized that we're super super up for it, and that's the most exciting thing. And actually, I must say, obviously, like for the any Shields fans out there, obviously, Alex is not part of the new lineup.
Yeah.
Entirely through his own choice. So he was in those initial like chats and talks about it, but in the end, he just decided that actually it wasn't for him, which is totally cool. He came to our London show recently and stuff, so there's no problem with that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Fair enough.
So it's really really cool. It's very special to us. We're putting a lot of
Yeah.
effort into making it as special as we can.
So our Hollow Our Home, I thought I saw like a Facebook post that they were looking for a drummer and a bassist.
Yeah.
And then I saw that you'd taken up the job as bassist, and I just thought, well, that just makes sense. Like, absolutely. Like, you were kind of, am I right in thinking you were, in a way, correct me if I'm wrong, you were kind of sort of down and out, and you kind of put the bass on the guitar stand and said, right, I need to have a think about what I'm doing. And sort of, you needed a change of scenery and a new perspective.
You're semi right in that. I was kind of down and out about stuff. Certainly never expected to ever tour again, and because I would have put my life savings on Shields not getting back together especially at that point. And yeah, like I wasn't. I was still. I've always been active. I've never fully stopped doing music. I did, I did session work for the Fallen Dreams, and
Yeah.
I was playing in a punk band at the time called The Appalled on the Isle of Wight, which I was having loads of fun in, like super fast punk. That was really great.
Yeah.
And I was also in another band. Again, I hope they don't mind me saying this. I think they've more or less said it in public before. But I was the original bassist in band Your Misery as well, which was going on, based in London. So I was doing stuff with that, and we'd had a few rehearsals together and stuff like that. Even had a photo shoot together and stuff. And I was doing stuff like that still. Um, but when Hollow came about, it was really weird. And I'm going to be fully honest about it. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't really audition for it, to be honest. And this is going to sound arrogant, but this is just how it happened. I had a message from Mike Goncalves, their manager, who I've known since like 2012, and he just said, "Would you be up for having a chat about it?" And I was just like, "Hell yeah!" Who wouldn't? Do you know what I mean? I couldn't believe it. I remember running downstairs saying to my wife, "You would not guess what's just happened." Couldn't believe it, and I didn't think it was actually going to come off until much later down the line. It took a while for it to happen, to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
a lot of Zoom chats and things.
yeah, of course. So slightly deep question. This is just an all-encompassing one as opposed to a specific project that you're part of. But what does art and the creative process mean to you when you're writing music, when you're designing artwork, when you're even writing a song, just on bass? Sort of
Yeah.
seems like something that's sort of deep within you and you can't quite put it down. You always have to be creating.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are like that. I think people are creative. It doesn't really stop. It just kind of manifests in different ways over time. For me, it's just therapy, I think, which is a really cliche thing to say about it. But it is. I mean, I was heavily bullied as a child in school, right up until high school. Had to change schools and things like that. And for me, it was kind of like this sounds negative, but it really was a positive. For me, it was kind of a fuck you to those people because I started very early as a musician, and all those people would just laugh at me playing music as if I would never be able to do it. So for me, it was kind of like and it helped me throughout my whole touring life.
Yeah.
All the hardships and shit stuff that happened. I had that internal anger, which probably isn't healthy. I'm not advocating this at all, but it's what worked for me. You have that internal anger that's kind of like a real fire, and it pushes you to keep going and to just give give that next show your best, or to give that new band a go. Yeah, it's always really important to me just to be like, I can do it. And I'm cringing at myself even as I say it, but that's just how it was. And that fades over time as you become an adult and older. But it certainly is, even now, fires me up.
Yeah, I can relate to what you're saying because you kind of turn a negative, spin it around, give it a bit of aggression, turn it into a positive, and hopefully, when you're playing the song back or people are listening to you on Spotify, then people can relate.
Oh, big time.
Yeah,
I mean, hopefully people can relate,
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely.
That's always, it's never the goal, but it's certainly a plus if they do.
Yeah. What bass are you playing these days?
Okay, so I'm still playing the bass that I acquired through Our Hollow Our Home, which is a Schecter Ultra 5. It's probably the best bass I've ever owned, and I kind of moved over from ESP, who are also amazing company, but Schecter kind of like Hollow had some really good deals going on with Schecter, so it made sense to upgrade myself when I joined that band. And it's like a little bit out there. I wanted to go for something. It's not like your average jazz bass style, which like 99% of bassists seem to have. I wanted to do something a little bit different. It looked a little funkier, I'm not quite sure I can pull it off still, but I love it. It's great. It's lightweight. You can throw it around. Yeah, it's really good. I highly recommend. I've never gone for Schecter before, but they're brilliant. They're great basses.
Is it 24 frets?
Do you know what? I don't even know. Actually, that's really embarrassing.
That's okay.
That's why
Is
I don't
it?
get asked on the bass podcasts, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
What I will say is it's a whole inch longer scale length. It's like 25 inches, which is really good for low tuning, especially in shields.
Yeah, yeah.
And I really appreciate that because any bassist, as I'm sure you will know as well,
Yeah.
is floppy strings don't do
Yeah,
nothing
yeah.
for you. And if you want to play in low tunings, you've got to have that scale length. And it's
Yeah.
the longest scale length I've ever played.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
There's a bassist who plays for Joe Satriani, and he's also in a band called Death Clock. He's called Brian Bella.
Yeah.
And he would be very much adamant on playing a 4-string bass guitar. But what he would do is he would get a 5-string pack.
Yeah.
And he would throw away, I think it was the
Smooth
thinnest
five
string.
Yeah, yeah.
And he would tune it 4 strings. And he would actually tune it up to a certain tuning. So he was like saying in an interview that they're like telephone cables rather than that sort of floppy thing that you get where you're just constantly thinking that it sounds a bit like a fart.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting.
I get it. You get better intonation. You can hear the note. It
Yeah.
cuts through live a lot more doing that.
Mm.
That's actually what I did for all the album material originally on the bass for Shields. It cuts through because you're never going to get the low E. It's too low.
Yeah.
Just sounds like a mud. And that's exactly what Loathe do, for example, as well.
Right.
It cuts through. It sounds epic. You're in the same octave as the guitar, essentially, but just girthy.
Yeah, absolutely. Last question on your bass: is it passive or active?
So that is an active one. It has active EMG pickups, which is actually what I used on my old ESP bass as well. But I think EMGs are like probably the best for metal heavy stuff. Again, I'm not too informed on it, but yeah, I think you need a good set of active pickups, whatever brand they are.
Yeah, definitely cuts through. Yeah. Who is the new Shields drummer?
Oh, okay, right. So this is a dude called Marcus. And I hadn't met him or anything before he was even an official Shields member, which might sound a bit weird, but that's just how bands work these days.
Yeah.
He came onto the scene where he literally messaged Sam when he was getting Kubrick together and said, "Hey, I know all your songs, by the way. Can I drum for you?" And he drummed for Sam on his tour with Bury Tomorrow. And this is one of those dudes. He's like a machine. He's one of them dudes that just can just listen to a song and he will play it perfectly, note for note, perfectly in time. Won't miss a beat. And it kind of blew me away. Before Burn It Down, we didn't intend for this to happen, but he had a couple flights cancelled coming into London. So we actually only played through the whole set maybe twice, and Shield songs are not particularly simple, and he smashed it. It was like we've been playing for years. But his normal, like his day job is he's the drummer for the hardcore band Throne from Sweden. So he's currently like touring America right now. He's killing it, doing really well. So on the last tour that we just recently did, we actually had a session player, a guy called Matt, who's also amazing. So if you come to a Shield show this year, you won't see Marcus playing, you'll see Matt playing. But Marcus and Matt, they're both amazing drummers. Amazing. Very lucky to have them.
Yeah. There's a lot of that modular band thing nowadays. Yeah. I recently interviewed Callum from The Bottom Line, who are a pop punk band.
Oh, wicked.
And I've spoken to him a couple of times in the real world off of Zoom, and he's said things in the past to me like he's the only sort of permanent fixture in The Bottom Line, and if someone has to go and do something, then he'll find like a session musician to do like a US tour with.
That's it.
But
it's a lot of extra admin and stress, but if it means the show goes on, then I'm kind of behind it, to be honest. As long as it's not a key. we could never do it with Sam or Joe, but bassist or drums, you can just,
Yeah.
I'd rather they didn't do it without me, but if they ever come, then
Yeah.
I imagine it's the way forward rather than cancelling.
Yeah, don't put yourself out of a job, mate.
Yeah, no, hopefully not.
Your new single, Bury Me. I heard it, I loved it, I've listened to it a lot, and it's now your second best performing song on Spotify, so it seems to have just gone boom. So what's the single about?
I'm going to disappoint you here because I didn't actually write the lyrics to this or anything, but I mean, I think "Bury Me" is a very like Shields type song. It's kind of what people would have expected. But we not that we were trying to do that, but we just kind of thought when we were writing when this song came about, we kind of thought like, right, let's just do a quintessential Shields song and add a little bit of modern spice to it. We're not where we're at when we did Life in Exile. It would never sound like Life in Exile or like Guilt or anything like that. So I'm really glad that it came out a little bit different to everything else, but with that signature sound that people kind of want.
Yeah.
So yeah, very happy with how it came out.
And who did the artwork for the single?
That was Marcus, the drummer.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow, he is
he's
talented.
he's really talented, and he just
Yeah.
popped into our group chat one day, and we're like, "That's amazing." We made a few edits on it here and there, but it's like 95% what he put in. Really, really cool. It's so useful having a dude that can do that. Yeah.
So you're allowed to say no comment on this, but are Shields now writing new music? I've seen a couple of your IG posts that you're playing guitar yourself. I imagine ideation to create music, and that's your sort of formula for laying down the bass. So that's official then.
We are, we don't have to hide about that. We're involved with our old record label, Long Branch Records, and we're working with them a little bit. And like they released "Bury Me," of course, and they kind of just like introduced the idea of it. And we're like, actually, yeah, that sounds really cool. So we're not quite sure how it's going to be shaped. I think people don't really do albums anymore necessarily, and so we're not quite sure what format it's going to take or anything like that. But yeah, the way that we write now is we kind of like most bands, I imagine these days, we kind of just form entire ideas ourselves and put it in to be assimilated or torn apart or not used or whatever. But so I do a bit of guitar. Obviously, my whole thing is that I'm never ever going to compare to Sam Kubrick in the guitar department, and I'm not going to try.
Yeah,
he is the riff guy, and that's how it is. And that's not that he's titled himself that. That's how I title him in that regard. And so I just try and come up with like melodies, choruses, atmospheres, all that kind of shit. That's kind of where I feel my talent lies in writing. So whereas Sam is like a powerhouse. He does it for a living. He ghost writes and stuff as well, and he's a monster. But we are very collaborative. We are very much a team when we write.
Yeah. So you want to sort of figure out the tempo and the syncopation of everything, and then you sort of build on it from there.
Yeah, I'm kind of like, I mean, everything that I write always comes out as like kind of like, I don't know, like U2, like just loads of sort of soundscapey type stuff, and I want to incorporate that a lot more into the new Shield stuff, because I think live especially it just sounds epic. If you've ever seen a band like Acres or Devil Sold His Soul and stuff like that, you'll know just how good that stuff sounds live, and I want to incorporate that amongst the riffs. Whether that will happen or not, I don't know. We'll see. It's still early days. We've got like 2 or 3 songs more or less done.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Do you have any hobbies outside of music? Do you sometimes just want to put the bass down and you just want to put the phone down? And I saw recently you went on a trip to France with your is it fiance or wife?
She's my wife now. Yeah,
we want to get that wrong.
Oh no, dude! I think you're so well researched. Anyway, you can definitely have a few slightly wrong details.
Indeed.
Yeah, man. Like I mean, it's a weird one because like now that I am back in Shields and doing tours and things, but I'm not doing it nearly as much as I was when I was in Hollow, for example. Hollow's probably the busiest I've been in a long time when I was back in that band, and now that I'm home and I have an entirely different job and things like that, we're trying to make the most of being able to travel a little bit because it always made me a little bit sad that she could never be there with me when I was in these amazing cities and
Yeah.
stuff. So, things like that. Like we went to Paris. That was she's been asking me for 9 years to go take her to Paris. So we went to Paris. We did it finally for her birthday and stuff like that. Yeah, we want to do a lot more traveling. But we, as like everyone, you have to fit it in. You have to try and fit it in and not let work suffer or your bank account suffer too bad.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Was there a lot of rushing around in France and Paris? I saw some of your Instagram stories, and you just managed to get on a train or a plane or something.
Oh man, dude, I know what you're talking about. So I'm really lucky because I mean we had timed everything, like the whole trip went so well in terms of like timings and all that sort of thing. And in a big city, it's not easy always. And I we had these tickets. We went on the Eurotunnel, and I basically I ordered an Uber from our hotel, which was literally like only like a 20-minute journey to Eurostar. But I didn't know the name of the train station that it is. And I just typed in Eurostar and it came up and I thought, okay, well, that must be it. How many more Eurostars are there in Paris? There's got to be just one. And this guy took us 20 minutes in the wrong direction to the Eurostar headquarters. So we were this close to missing our journey back.
My God.
And it would have cost us a lot of money.
Yeah.
It's unbelievably bad.
Yeah.
It was probably the most stressed I've been in a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jesus. There we go.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
Did you enjoy France though? For the romantic city this
I mean,
is?
anywhere in Europe is just wicked. Like France is great. It's just beautiful. We did loads of museums. We did like this river cruise thing. Yeah, it was nice seeing it. I'd been to Paris like 5 times with bands before, and I never ever got to see any of it, basically, beyond like a 20-minute walk from the venue here and there. And it was nice to see it with my partner who had dreamed of going there, most for like a decade almost. So that was really special for me just to be able to do that finally. My partner's put her life on hold basically whilst I've been touring. Essentially, she's we've been together almost 9 years, and we've been on holiday 3 times in that time. Because of me. And I know I understand there's people who've been on holiday less than that and all that sort of thing, but it wasn't like something I ever planned for us as a couple to not be able to do normal things. So now's the time. We're doing that now.
I feel that. Love it. Right, well, we're going to go to a quick break because we've got about 6 minutes left in this Zoom meeting. Then we're going to talk about promotion on the other side of everything when you're not playing bass. And then I've just got some random questions, Larry, that I just need you to answer as honestly as possible. Some of them are a bit mental. So bear with me. Go to a quick break and we'll be back in a sec. And cheers for listening and watching so far, guys. All right? Cheers.
Do you need that extra burst of energy? Do you need motivation? Do you need that X factor? Well, Go Energy has you covered. Whatever gets your juices flowing. Whatever you need to let your hair down. Have a go at it all with Go Energy. Gluten-free, vegan-friendly, no artificial additives. Go Energy. Use code Redland10 at checkout.
And we are back for part 2. So, something that I was quite impressed with any musician really that does this is you got a bit involved in the promotion side of music rather than just sort of playing until your hands fall off and really trying, and sometimes that can create a bit of failure and you can end up feeling quite sad. But I think it's important to know both sides, the logistics of everything, why potentially you're not getting on a tour, and looking at it all from a holistic perspective of why does this band only play once a year in Bristol, for example? So Divergent Promotions, what's your role within that, Barry?
So my role with these guys is quite broad. I do many jobs. It's a small team. There's like 5 of us, and we are growing exponentially all the time. So the workload increases, but also the goals increase, the achievements increase. So essentially, my role is a diary manager. So I manage the diaries currently for 2 venues. It used to be another one as well, but yeah, I'm in charge of like advancing booking, making sure there's enough staff on at any one point for shows and things like that. I've done loads of graphic design for it as well. I've often designed the posters for it all. I also rep the shows in person. I'll be there running the shows, making sure it all goes to schedule and looking after the artists and things like that. Divergent also owns Takedown Festival, which you may be familiar with.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's another wing of the thing as well. Yeah, but our company doesn't just do venue. We're contracted to venues to essentially give them AAA bookings. So anything, we're boosting the profile of the venues. At the same time, we're giving venues, which venues have had a hard time, as I'm sure you can imagine, over the last 5 years or so, and beyond that even. And we're trying to boost the profile of them and get the best acts we possibly can. That's actually going to make the venues money, and keep cash flow rolling. And yeah, we're all very much busy, but that's how we like it. It's good. There's a big flow of workload always coming in, and that's how it's very rewarding for me to do that.
Yeah. So were you at Portsmouth Takedown Festival? Was it the start of this year?
Yes, yeah, that was the comeback, the Takedown's comeback from many years ago, in Portsmouth Guildhall, and it was it was an absolute smash. It was so successful. We're going on to do it again next year. It's in the planning stages, and we've confirmed quite a few really amazing acts that people are going to love. Obviously I can't tell you that right now, but it's going to be well worth getting those early bird tickets, I can tell you.
Yeah. Well, at one point I thought that it was like utopia for me, because I've recently discovered Sleep Token, and I truly think that Take Me Back to Eden is my album of the year, and we're not even quite there yet. But I got to see In Me, who are my absolute favourite band of all time.
Yeah.
I got to see The Bottom Line, who I've just interviewed recently.
Yeah.
I got to see Skindred for a tiny bit of time. Confessions of a Traitor, who are friends of the podcast.
Absolutely.
And yeah, man, it was great. So well done to you. Were you going there as a staff member, or was it a bit of sort of enrichment time for you to actually go there and enjoy it as a punter?
So I had maybe half an hour to enjoy it as a punter. I was basically, my role there was artist liaison for the main stage at Takedown this year. However, we did many, when you work a festival like that, you're kind of just rushing around making sure that all the plugs are all the plugs are filled, because there's many fires that get lit and have to be put out immediately, metaphorically. And I probably did like 30 plus loadouts for bands that day and things like that, and all kinds of stuff. It's a very busy ship to run backstage. I can tell you that, to make sure it all runs smoothly.
There's still something about me that when I see a band sort of pack their stuff together and load stuff into a van, there's still something that burns inside of me that I want to help them.
Yeah, I
And
get
my
you.
girlfriend gets so not annoyed, but she's like what I was saying about earlier in the first half, this incessant need to sort of feel like I've got to help. And that's
Yeah,
definitely from working in event management of like
there you go.
this. If you just get someone else to help load the back of the van up, then everyone's happy, everyone can go and enjoy themselves, and you can move on to the next task if you're in a band. Or sometimes as well, like bands literally don't have any time, they go to
No,
another show that night, and it's like,
the days of bands having loads of crew are
yeah,
well and
yeah,
truly over, you know, so many hands make light work.
exactly.
Yeah, as long as
Yeah,
you can be
exactly.
trusted not to drop something
Yeah,
expensive.
that would absolutely be something. Oh, sorry, mate, I've just dropped your Axe effects that cost more than
Yeah,
my
yeah,
entire life. Yeah,
yeah.
fantastic. So,
No, but that's
Divergent promo.
the,
Go on, sorry.
I was
You're
just
right.
saying you've obviously got a good instinct though, man.
I
People like
try.
bands like people like yourselves because
I try. Yeah. Sometimes I do sort of resist, and I do think, these guys have got it, and like you say, the stuff is quite expensive. So,
yeah,
but yeah, as well, like when I help them load out or load in or do something, I can sort of talk to them whilst they're doing something.
well there you
So
go.
you
Yeah,
kind of get a bit of an inside scoop sometimes of what's going on behind the curtain, as it were. But
a good networking tool
yeah,
for sure.
yeah, absolutely. So did you say Divergent Promo are currently upscaling and growing?
Yeah, I mean we're growing all the time. You know we're always actively booking tours for bands and things like that. You know, there's a good few of the latest Skindred tour is us, for example.
Yeah,
And it's yeah, we're just a growing team. I know that sounds very vague, but that's probably about as specific as I can get.
yeah.
But
Wow.
yeah, we're constantly working with new bands, and we've just launched the recent Takedown showcase shows, which are going on in many cities across the south of the UK,
Yeah, yeah,
trying to help boost local talent, which is something I'm really passionate about.
yeah.
As you know, I live on the Isle of Wight, and I'm always trying to bring bands over from the island, give them opportunities in Southampton and Portsmouth.
Yeah.
It's something I really care about.
Yeah, because I think you get this sort of kingmaker system where it's like the top 6 bands, they kind of just modularly kind of transition between tours. And if you don't have any sort of grassroots up and coming talent,
Yeah.
like one of my friends' bands, Not Dead Yet, are in one of the showcases.
Oh, amazing. Yeah,
I know Simon and Harry and Tom from that band, and I think it's really important that you get like Battle of the Bands for Bloodstock, and
yeah,
you get
exactly.
stuff like that, don't you? And I think it's really important, and it gives you such a endorphin boost if you get through to like the final.
Oh, it's
And
honestly
yeah,
like it's such. I think it's even if you don't get through, like those events on their own are great fun and a great way to boost your boost your band either way. You know, do you know what I mean? It's so worth being part of just for the exposure alone of
yeah,
being on the bill with many bands that you probably have never met before. You know, it's great.
yeah, definitely. So, logistical question about promotions: how are bands currently now being affected by stuff like Brexit? And if they want to tour outside the UK to places like Europe or even
Yeah.
beyond, how many more hoops do bands have to jump through compared to pre-Brexit?
Okay, so I'm very experienced in this matter. So I can tell you it's absolutely annihilating bands. It's horrendous. You know, and the most literal, most recent example of that is actually Shields would have done a few European shows already by now if it weren't for Brexit.
Yeah,
Um, you you basically have to spend a huge amount of money on documentation now to bring all your equipment over. You need something called a carnet. Um, you need to basically have a itemized list of every single piece of equipment that you're planning to take, all the merch, everything, and it has to be um really to the final dot perfect, because if you don't, they can not only not allow you to cross and into another country, but they can fine you a band ending amount of money, So it's really scary, and it's never straightforward. I've done it many, many times with our Hollow. It was a constant bane of our life, even just trying to find the offices where you get it signed off. It probably adds about 2 hours to each border crossing. Once you're inside Europe, you're not it's not so bad, but it's getting from the UK back into Europe and vice versa, and anywhere else that happens to be. If you're in Eastern Europe and you happen to go into a country that's not in certain, like if you go into like Switzerland, for example, not Eastern Europe, but Switzerland, you have to go through the whole hoopla all over again. And I can tell you, it's bankrupting bands, and it's the ones that don't do it. Like there's a few bands that get lucky here and there, but I can tell you right now, it's not worth trying to get lucky. You do it to the book, and even then, you still get screwed. So it's a really, really, really bad situation right now, and if it doesn't change soon, bands are just gonna not tour anymore.
Yeah.
And we've already seen that start to happen, in fact.
Christ, there we go.
Yeah.
Dot your T's and cross your I's, and whatever the expressions are. I think I got that the wrong way around.
Yeah.
But you've also got like a thing now where I don't know if this is new, but it seems to have just cropped up recently, and I keep hearing it over and over again, which is like venues want a cut of the merch sales.
Right.
So one of my favorite instrumental bands is Russian Circles. And
Mm.
they just don't sell merch at shows anymore. They just tell you to go on their website. And it's just one thing after another, isn't it, man? It's constant uphill struggle with creativity, and it feels a bit like the easiest thing to do is to just not be creative. But we both know that that's obviously not an option.
It's becoming more and more a passion rather than a job, and it's like the merch cut thing is obviously a really volatile subject. And I've played venues where they've taken a massive cut of your merch and things like that, and it's a really tricky one because it's a reaction from the venues to try and make ends meet, which is on that, on one very small side of it, I can kind of understand it, but at the same time, it's obviously totally unfair and not something that is a healthy model for business. In our company, we absolutely don't do any of that. We have a very, very open, somewhat strict policy on not doing that. If you bring your own merch, you're gonna get 100% of everything, and we'll do our best to give you the best merch area that we can. But it's a horrible thing, and it's just another. I would put money on it getting worse in the future. You just wait and see. I think there'll be more and more things that pop up, random taxes on things and stuff like that certain companies will come up with to try and get money.
If you play songs that are more than 2 minutes and 30 seconds, you have to pay a length tax.
It wouldn't surprise me. It really wouldn't, to be honest. Yeah.
Could be anything, and we'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right. But yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So, as a musician that's been in the industry for a long time, this is a bit of a strange one, but do you think the number of bands is the same, less, or more now compared to when you first started playing music?
That's a really cool question. Do you mean just in pure like numbers, like the amount
Just
of bands?
sort of, when you stick your head out of your situation, you stick your head above the wall, and you're like, actually, there's so much local talent.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, I think probably it's probably about the same. I think because I think like the want to do music is just obviously something that's never really gone for people, and what level you play that music to doesn't really matter. If you're enjoying it, that's it, and it's increasing as we've spoken about, but just now it's becoming more and more important that you enjoy it, to be honest, because you're certainly not going to pay your bills with it anymore. I think it's probably about the same, but having said that, it wouldn't surprise me if people just gone, do you know what, forget it, I'm not doing, I've done it a couple of times. I've gone, right, forget this, I can't do this anymore, because it's just too heartbreaking. To be honest, it's below, even in bands that have earned a lot of money that I've been in, you still, I can tell you now, I won't get into the figures, but I've been in bands that have had thousands of pounds coming across the merch tables every night on tour, and I've been paid less than minimum wage every time. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, whilst I'm grateful to earn anything, it's kind of like you sort of think, well, as you get older, you think, okay, I'm not okay with this anymore.
Yeah.
And it has to be about the fun because it cannot be about a career, so to speak.
Yeah. I was going through a bit of this when like I was organizing bands that were kind of outside of my immediate band. So I was like being someone's manager. And
Cool.
there was a bit of a Nirvana phase that I was going through. When that happened, I think I bought the deluxe edition of Nevermind or something. And there was a song called Pay to Play. And I was like, oh, mate, that's exactly what people do now. Like they buy 50 tickets from the promoter, and then it's up to them as individuals to sell those 50 tickets. And if you don't sell those 50 tickets, you lose. So it's literally like paying to play. You know, I kind of resonate with that.
I'd say buying tickets from a promoter. I mean, we never do anything like that. We would never sell tickets to a band and ask them to do that. But obviously, yes, there are a lot of promoters that do that. And I'm dead against that sort of activity because it's kind of just it kind of just passes the buck. It's like, well, I don't care about whether the show does well anymore because I've got my money.
Yeah, completely.
We would never do that ever. And I would, to be honest, I would encourage bands just to say, forget it. I'd rather not play than hand you cash for money that you should be putting into promotion anyway, probably. Do you know what I mean? So,
absolutely.
But yeah, I get you, man. I mean, bands pay to play regardless of that anyway, because they're taking time off work, they're putting petrol in the tank, you know, and I'd be very surprised half the time if they're coming home breaking even, to be honest. So they're paying to play anyway.
Yeah. I can't remember where I saw it, but I saw a sign once. It might have been in someone's house. They were a musician, and it was something like a musician puts £5,000 of gear into a £500 car to play for 50 quid.
Yeah.
I was like, oh god, that's so like relatable and just true, unless you're at the level of people like Bryan Adams and Bruce Springsteen and Foo Fighters and Taylor Swift, filling up arenas. But
the gap is getting larger.
Yeah.
You know, you get bands that make just about ends meet through a lot of work, you know, and they'll be actually they'll be the bands that are doing better, to be honest, these days. But then you obviously get like your Taylor Swifts who are just making stupid amounts of money. I can't even like picture it, to be honest, the amount of money that she must be making off her tours right now. It shows that shows the frustrating side to that is it shows there is a market for that. People are buying tickets. I mean, how much were the Blink-182 tickets when they came out? Everyone was sort of laughing, but those shows are still selling out, right?
Yeah.
So, for the right act, people are still going, so.
Yeah. One of many bands that are doing a comeback tour and a reunion, and there's lots like the Blackout had Sean on recently. That's why I use him as a reference. And
that's cool.
There's a lot of bands sort of getting back together, and it's not necessarily for money. It's more the enjoyment of it. Like Funeral for a Friend seemed to split up and then come back, and it seems to be a bit of a cycle for them. But there's definitely a need for that nostalgia and.
You can't put a price tag on that to an extent, I fully believe bands like Funeral for a Friend and stuff like that, obviously it has to make sense money-wise, I think, probably, but at the same time, I think they're all about passion, those guys, for sure. You can tell in how they present what they're doing. They're putting a lot of younger bands on their bills, for example, like Dream State and things like that, and obviously Dream State are doing very well and deserve to be up there, but I love that they're doing that because they could easily have put an old mates band on or something. Do you know what I mean? And because it wouldn't have mattered because they would sell out anyway.
Yeah, I think Yellow Card are doing something as well, or they might have already done something. But yeah, there we go. So, So your answer to the question of local bands, because I think Weymouth's quite a weird, enigmatic place where it's very bipolar.
Right. Okay.
We go through sort of bands quite sort of circular, cyclic, where we've got a sudden boom of young people leaving college, and there's like 47 pop punk bands overnight. And then it kind of whittles down to 2 metal bands and a pop punk band. And it seems to be dominated in Weymouth by cover bands. Nothing wrong with cover bands, but when they're the majority share, it kind of questions why be creative and why write music if you obviously want to, if you want to earn money, you play the songs that already exist. So your answer to that was you think everything's sort of business as usual and it's kind of stayed the same amount?
I think it's pretty much the same amount. I would say there's definitely a lot more tribute bands out there for sure.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing that you brought up tribute bands, because they to be honest, these days they're kind of a much better prospect for venues because people do just buy tickets, even if they've never seen them before. But if you're into AC/DC or Queen or something, the chances of you seeing a decent tribute band to that on any given night in a major city is probably quite high, actually. And you're going to get a fun night, often with high production and all that, and it's fun. And I totally get why it's on average it sells more tickets than original shows. It's kind of sad, I get it, but at the same time I can't fault these tribute bands because they put a lot of the good ones, they put so much work into it. It's unbelievable, and they are some of the most professional musicians you could ever work with. They're brilliant, and maybe it's a sign the original bands need to step up a bit. I don't know. I'm not saying they need to, but maybe you never know. It's kind of depressing when that happens, though. I get you for sure. Yeah.
So we've got some weird questions now. We're kind of done with music.
Yeah.
Weirdest place you've ever slept?
Okay, I know this one immediately. So that was a kitchen floor in France whilst a house party was raging all around me. We were staying in this guy's house after a show, and that was the only place I could sleep. And I was just so tired, I had to just set up camp and do it.
How many hours do you think you got in?
Probably about half an hour, not even an hour. Yeah, it was probably one of the worst night sleep of my life. Yeah. Never forgotten it though.
Love it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay if you don't have any, but do you have any experiences with the paranormal, ghosts? Are you superstitious? Do you believe in the other side? Anything like
that? Do you know what? I kind of think I did. I think I had a weird experience where I thought I saw my granddad. I was sleeping at my grandmother's house. This is like when I was a young kid, sleeping at my grandmother's house, and my granddad had been ill for quite a while and had been sort of bedbound in this particular room, and I was sleeping in that room, in that bed, and I have this weird vision of waking up and seeing him sat at the end of my bed. But it wasn't a nasty thing. It was like a really nice, comforting thing. He was kind of just like watching over me a bit. And it's probably just a dream, but it didn't freak me out or scare me or anything. It was really nice, actually. I would be up for it happening again. It'd be nice.
Sure, we could schedule something in.
Yeah.
If he's watching the podcast, we can reach out to him and send him an email. You could do your diary for your venue. You could do one for your grandparents.
Yeah, that's the only real thing that I've genuinely felt like was that a ghost. Yeah, weird.
I'll send you a link to a YouTube video after this, which made me cry last night.
Okay.
It's a really wild video, man. It's called The Knocking Technique.
Oh dear.
Essentially, it's a couple of YouTubers that are absolutely blowing up at the moment called Sam and Colby. You can't move for these guys. They're the biggest paranormal investigators in the world, on YouTube at least.
Oh, okay.
And essentially what they do is they've got 2 people in the room with them, and they're at a place in America called the Conjuring House, which is where the Conjuring House, which is where the film, I think it's either called The Conjuring or The Exorcist.
Right, okay.
And they got in touch with their grandparents.
Oh, blimey.
And they spoke to these people, and this woman was doing the alphabet, and
Yeah,
there was a
like a Ouija
knock.
board sort of thing.
Yeah, but it was like a really clear knock, like I just did there on the table.
Mm.
And they were asking the spirits if they knew Sam and Colby, and they were getting them to do names. And I can't explain it. I'm fully on board with the fact that I think that is actually real. They went through the sort of floorboards on the house. They went outside of the house. They did it in a completely random sort of Central Park place. And you just hear like knock, and I'm like, so it's like spelling out names of people, full names, not just the first name, not just the surname.
Oh, blimey.
But yeah, it kind of reminded me a bit of the sort of crossing over with John Edward, where he used to do that sort of, I'm sensing a Caroline, and there'll be no one in the crowd. That's all bollocks, all that sort of stuff. But
it's a weird thing, isn't it? I feel really strongly about Ouija boards and things. Like, I really think they're a bad thing, and I know people have fun with them and stuff like that. I get it, but I think people have to be really careful what they're inviting in.
Yeah,
because yes, that could easily have been their grandparents. It could have been. Having said that, it could have been something much worse, something bad, negative. And I think people should be very careful with stuff like that. I would personally, no shade on anyone, but I wouldn't even have a Ouija board in the house.
Yeah, I get that.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to invite anything bad into my house.
I watched a video a couple of weeks ago when I was on leave at work, and it was actually a Ouija board museum. And they go through like the origin of everything and how it used to just be a tool to talk to people.
Yeah.
And then it kind of suddenly became very sort of nefarious. And I think that's through movies and sort of art and through people having bad experiences. And the bad will always obviously outweigh the good, And it's
I'm sure there's a lot to it. There's a lot to it. Yeah. I wouldn't want to risk it myself, but
I get that.
But yeah, I mean, I imagine it was a fascinating place to visit. Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's in Salem, which is quite renowned for spooky cats and Halloween and stuff. But yeah, I'll send you the knocking thing in a bit. It's quite a long video.
I'll be honest, I'm not sure I could watch it.
I'll send you some highlights.
Okay.
Awesome. Right. So the big question, the big one for the podcast. It's not very big at all. When you take the bins out, Larry,
do
you know what bins you need to take out on what week? Or do you have to look at the neighbours?
Yeah, 100%. I get in trouble with my wife for this all the time. I never know. I have to base it entirely on what they do, other people do. And I've actually got it wrong still with that even. Yeah. So not good, man. Not good.
That really knocks you out, doesn't it? Especially if they don't take the bins. Because you kind of have to like get like 4 bin bags into one bin. Because you're kind of catching up, aren't you? And
you got to get creative,
Put it in someone else's bin.
Yeah, sneak across.
That's it.
Yeah.
Or go to the tip if you can.
Yeah.
Any questions for me? Anything you want to ask me at all?
I just hope you have a lovely time at Wheatus, man, because that's actually one of our shows. That's our company. That's our show.
Moonshine.
Yeah. I think you'll have a really great time. It'll be a lot of fun, and I'm very happy for you. Congratulations on all you're doing with your podcast, man. It's amazing.
It's been 3 years, man. It has had its challenges, and I'm so glad that this has gone to 2 weekly, because doing this every week is hard.
You got to have lots of stamina, I imagine, and you come up with very good questions. So it's very I can see you put a lot of love into it.
I try my best to sort of specialize and really give the guest the attention that I think they deserve. That's why I get hold of people in the first place, is because I want to have a chat with them.
I appreciate you. I can't believe you've asked me back again. I really appreciate it.
It's all good.
It means a lot.
It's all good. That's all right. Last question, and then we're going to finish. How do you want to be remembered?
Just as a nice guy.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah. I'd be happy with that. I just, certainly not as a bassist, because there's many better bassists. So I think music's not something I'll be remembered for, but hopefully my own family will remember me as a good person. That's all I want.
I'm sure they will.
Hmm.
I'm sure you're already 70% there, mate.
Yeah, there you go.
Just got to keep going. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks for listening, everyone. Just stay on the call, Larry. I'll need a favour from you.
Sure.
So yeah, bear with. But thanks for listening, guys. I think we're approaching the end of season 13 now. And like I just said on recording, it's been a pretty crazy ride to get to nearly season 14 at this point. So thank you all for listening and dropping me messages and sending me suggestions for guests. It's quite a lot at the moment. So I find it hard to say thank you sometimes, but it's been quite overwhelming lately, and I'm glad that I still do this sort of once every 2 weeks, and I'm able to sit down with people like Mr. Larry, and yeah, it's been really fun. So cheers for listening, watching, viewing and subscribing, and tell a friend. Cheers, guys. Bye.
I am broken, dysfunctional, beyond repair. With my dark companion, I'm a
Hey guys, it's John here from Absolute Bedlam. We just wanted to take a moment to introduce you to our brand new Patreon. If you head over to Patreon now, you can get access to behind the scenes footage, ad-free content and episodes. You can even send your own requests in terms of the content you would like to see us create. All of this is available to you and more. We've got free options available to you as a patron with us. If you just want to support what we do and help build the Absolute Bedlam experience, a small fee of £1 a month, you can do just that. If you want to get access to that ad-free content, those ad-free episodes, for £5 a month, you can join the Hive. And if you want all of that and more behind the scenes footage, commission works with us, live Q&A sessions, for £10 a month, all of the madness, all of the chaos of Absolute Bedlam will be yours. So head over to Patreon now, become a patron, and join the Hive.
Absolute Bedlam podcast. Who? What? Where? Why?